Okay. This regular council meeting will come to order. Can we get a roll call?
Ruth Camarillo Smith.
Present.
Luanna Martin.
Present.
Mayor Jason Knight.
Present. All right, now everybody please rise for the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, as we convene this council meeting, we seek your guidance and wisdom. May our discussions be characterized by respect, understanding, and commitment to the common good. Help us to discern the needs of our city, its citizens, and to make decisions that reflect your value of justice, compassion, and fairness. Grant us the strength to work together even in disagreement and to seek solutions that will benefit all. We pray for peace, progress, and prosperity for our city. In your name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we're going to special consideration items. Item A, consideration to approve ordinance number 2025-4494, declaring the May 3rd, 2025 election results.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item that you have before you is the ordinance declaring the results of the May 3rd, 2025 general and special election. Upon completion of the canvass, the election results became official on May 13th, 2025. All 6 charter amendment propositions passed and will be incorporated into our city charter. This is the Exhibit A attached to the ordinance.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve consideration to approve the ordinance 2025-4494, declaring the May 3rd, 2025 election results.
Okay, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Aye.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, now, item B, consideration on the selection of Mayor Pro Tem for the ensuing year.
This next item for consideration is appointing a Mayor Pro Tem for the ensuing year as set forth in the city charter, Article 3, Section 5.
I make
Okay.
a motion to appoint Mr. Randy Haskins as Mayor Pro Tem for the ensuing year.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, moving right along to item C, consideration to approve a resolution declaring the vacancy for Councilmember Place 2.
This is the next step to create a vacancy. Before you is a resolution declaring the vacancy for the office of Councilmember Place 2 effective May 19th, 2025 for the remainder of the unexpired term.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution declaring a vacancy for Councilmember Place 2.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Aye.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, item D, consideration of the process for filling the City Council Member Place 2 vacancy.
Okay, I'll briefly go over the process for filling the vacancy. The City of Aransas Pass will be accepting applications for individuals interested in being considered to fill the unexpired term of Councilmember Place 2. Application and letter of interest will be accepted until Friday, June 13th at 5 p.m. And the person will fill the unexpired term under the general city election scheduled for May 2nd, 2026. The qualifications, I'll go over the qualifications just briefly. And they are must be United States citizen, 18 years of age or older at the time of the appointment, must have not been determined by final judgment of a court exercising probate jurisdiction to be totally mentally incapacitated or partially mentally incapacitated without the right to vote, must have not been finally convicted of a felony, must have resided continuously in this state for 12 months immediately preceding the appointment date, must have been a resident of the City of Aransas Pass for a period of not less than 1 year, must be registered to vote in the City of Aransas Pass, must maintain residence in the city throughout the term of office, must file an application and a letter of interest to explain why the applicant is interested in being appointed to fill the unexpired term of the city council position. And let's see. And applications are available in the city secretary's office, here at City Hall, or on the website. And again, I stated the deadline is Friday, June 13th at 5 p.m.
Okay.
I make a motion on the process for filing the city council member place 2 vacancy.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, item E, consideration on selecting a date to appoint a person to fill the city council member place 2 vacancy.
All right. And lastly, on this process, applications will be considered at a special council meeting where applicants will be interviewed and selected. Afterwards, a swearing in will be conducted immediately following the appointment of a new city council member, place 2.
Okay.
Can we have clarification? Will we have a special meeting for that? Or be at the next city council meeting?
You're gonna make that determination
Yeah.
tonight when you want to have that
Yeah.
hold the special council meeting.
What date were we talking
I
about,
believe
Mary?
that was June the 18th.
That's right.
Mhm.
All
So the
right.
applications have to be in by June 13th. Do y'all want to have a separate meeting?
Yeah, we'll have to, so there by June 13th, we'll meet, and we can go over them, and then on the 18th, we'll have a special meeting, and that's when we'll do the interviews, and we'll make the selection that day.
Okay.
Good with that, Randy?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. We got a motion?
I'll motion the consideration of selecting a date to appoint a person to fill a city council member place 2 vacancy by June 18th.
Okay, we've got a motion, we got a second?
Aye.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
You're the mayor
All right.
pro tem, by the way.
Yeah, all right.
Already done.
Yeah, we're on presentations now.
Presentation.
Yeah, all right, now we'll go into presentations.
The first presentation is an introduction to a public improvement district. We have Mr. McCliney here, our financial advisor, to give a presentation. Last summer, the council approved a PID for the Aransas Oaks Development Project. The PID has not yet been created. We're still working through the process. But Mr. McCliney is here to give a presentation on how a PID works and its benefits.
Thank you, Mary. My name is Mark McLaney with Samco Capital Markets. I'm the city's financial advisor. We help you when you borrow money, as well as something like this, Public Improvement District. In July, I last presented this, so we have 2 new council members that haven't seen or probably anything aware of Public Improvement Districts. Don't know if you had a chance to look. This packet was included in the agenda packets. We haven't created the PID. We were proposed to create the PID. The developer, and he is here today, didn't submit the PID petition, wasn't ready. We are now, about a month ago, he said he was ready to proceed. So we thought it was going to come earlier. He had to take care of some land issues, and as of about a month ago, said he was ready to go. With the new council, I think the mayor suggested we do this presentation again to get you more acquainted with or refreshed with what a public improvement district is. So it really is an economic tool. It's created under Chapter 372 of the legislative of the Texas Legislative Code. It doesn't appear any new or anything more restrictive is going to be done with this year's legislative session. You never know. There's certain things that get added and subtracted on how cities can operate, this being one of them, but it doesn't appear that there are going to be any changes from last legislative session. So again, it's created, and how you proceed is all through Chapter 372. One of the things that we point out, and again, I'm just going through this presentation, we consider it an economic development tool. public infrastructure has gotten so costly that the state legislature came about and said, okay, here's another way of financing it. So it can pay for public infrastructure only. So it would be streets, drainage, water and sewer, and anything that would be considered open to the public. The moment someone comes and says, we want to do a PID with a gated community, makes it very difficult, because that wouldn't be open to the public. One of the things that I like is that it's not another public subdivision. A municipal utility district, and there's some in this area, but there's tons in the Houston area, have its own board. And so in a MUD, a municipal utility district, you could be within the city limits or right next to the city limits, and it's an entire another political subdivision. A PID is run and controlled by the city council. So it keeps local control in your hands. It allows cities to extend public infrastructure, as I said, without burdening existing ratepayers and taxpayers. So the idea is the PID can pay for the infrastructure. That infrastructure is then given to the city. So your current residents don't pay for it. And we're going to touch on how it gets paid, but if I live here and not in the boundaries of the PID, it's not going to cost me anything. However, the city will get the benefit of having all the public infrastructure given to them, as well as the taxes that come with it, the sales taxes that come with new people moving in, and a new good subdivision. Why utilize a PID? That's now page 4. I said it's basically, but for incentivizing it through the PID, the development doesn't occur, or it's harder to occur. We can ask and get benefits to the city. You'll see here there's pools, playgrounds, fitness centers, enhanced trails. Perhaps those are things that can be negotiated. Enhanced trails would be hike and bike trails, that type of stuff. In the way the state legislature over the last 4 to 6 years, they've controlled what cities can require on building standards. Well, you will have a development agreement, and you can put in a development agreement that says, we want this for our building standards. Well, you can't do that without having the development agreement and a public improvement district. If there's a new residential subdivision coming in and they have the land and they're just going to do it, we can't say we need 80% certain facade or enough distance between the driveway or the street and the garage. There's things that you can't, that the state's taken out of your control. Well, with the development agreement through a PID, you get that control again. And then you see the city can require cash contribution from the developer to fund city projects. And we call that a community benefit fee. How does a PID work? That's now page 5. There's a defined area. It's absolute boundaries. And it's going to be, to create a PID, the landowner has to petition us. Assessments are levied on the property within that land boundaries. So again, if you're outside of the boundaries, you're not paying a cent. Now, an assessment looks like a tax, acts like a tax, but technically it's an assessment. It comes in just below the lien level of another property tax, city, county, school district taxes. It's just below that, but I said it looks like and smells like it's going to be out and submitted and go out to the property owners in the tax bill. It'll be listed: city tax, school tax, county tax, drainage tax, and then PID tax. So it will be billed that way, and it will be paid that way. There's a lien that runs on the property just like taxes, but it is, as I said, one step lower. Assessments are used to pay for debt service on bonds or to reimburse the developer over that term. So if you can just imagine a tax, an assessment that's 50 cents. That 50 cents is on every home on the per value of the house, and that money will come in just like the city taxes. They'll be segregated, but they'll come in. So that money can go straight to the developer, and he can be reimbursed back over 30 years, or that money can be used to pay debt service on a bond, and the developer can get the money sooner. So it's another mechanism to help fund that infrastructure. Administrative expenses are included in the annual installment. And again, I pointed out existing residents pay nothing. No city funds are used. I'm going to touch on a couple of things there. We have a PID administrator working for the city called P3 Works. They are your back office when and if this gets going. They get paid out of the assessment. Prior to the assessment actually being set, we did come to terms with the developer for a PSA, Professional Services Agreement, where they deposited $40,000 to cover any and all creation costs going forward. So it's not being paid for by city taxes. That's what we're going to keep coming back to. Everything in this development needs to be standalone. If I'm a current resident, I don't pay anything. Someone that moves into this development, buys a house, moves into this development, will get disclosure documents says I'm part of a PID. And they'll have to sign that to understand it. That PID, that is the acknowledgement that there's going to be an extra assessment versus elsewhere in the city. And so they're making a conscious decision to live in that subdivision. So that subdivision better be nice, because we're going to be paying more. The home buyer has a right, unlike taxes, to pay that assessment off. So it might be a $2,000 a year assessment for 30 years. They can pay that off, and it just goes away. So if I paid it off on my house and my neighbor doesn't, neighbor sells and I sell, whoever buys those two houses, one won't have an assessment because that's been paid off and is off of that property, but the person that didn't pay it off will sell it, and that new person will sign it, the acknowledgement also, but they'll be responsible for that assessment going forward. How is a PID created? The first item is a PID petition is submitted by the developer, really by the landowners. So once we get a PID petition, then it goes to you, goes to council, and we call a public hearing for the PID. At that point, you have the ability to create the PID. The preparation, at that point, we then have to do what's called a Professional Service and Assessment Plan, PSA, Preliminary Service and Assessment Plan, and work on the financing agreements and the project. Now, we need to get a development agreement that outlines what we're getting and what the developer is getting. And those are some of the things that are being all the way up to this process. Once the petition is presented, there'll be a public hearing. Once you have that, you can call and have the levy, the actual levy on the property. Eventually, there'll be an assessment ordinance, a final service and assessment plan, all the agreements to get it done legally in each step of the way. It takes about 6 months to get there. Now, I think we're further along because we've gone through this process, but if you started from scratch, developer just knocking on the door, it would take about 6 months to get going. Who does the city have on their team? The city staff will all be involved, but you'll have outside financial advisor, you'll have outside bond counsel, PID administrator. The underwriter, which is the company that buys the bonds and sells the bonds, if it's a bonded PID, we'll need to have an appraiser from the outside, underwriters council, and a trustee. The trustee is the person that keeps, the bank that keeps control of all the funds. None of the funds are released until we make sure that your roads that are being deeded to you meet city standards. The water and sewer system meets your building codes. If it's not, the money won't get released to reimburse the developer for what they've spent. Types of PIDs, I already mentioned pay as you go, just meaning we set up the assessment, that assessment just goes on for 30 years, and the developer gets it each year as it comes in. Reimbursement bonds. Reimbursement bonds are when the developer does the construction, finishes it, completes it, we get it, we then sell the bonds. Construction bonds are just similar to that, except construction is, we sell the bonds prior to the construction based upon the projections. Now, what happens on cost overruns, we have to require that they have a letter of credit or something to make sure they can finish the project, so we don't end up with 3/4 finished project out in the city limits. City's obligations for the PID, we'll have to inspect the public improvements. We hire and oversee the PID administrator, which is something you've already done. City, in conjunction with the PID administrator, we review and request, review requests for draws by the developer. We verify the infrastructure costs, not only that it meets our standards, but that the cost, receipts. We certify compliance with the terms of the certificate of payment before the bonds are released. Verify appropriate release of liens to make sure all the bills have been paid. Maintain database of all property owners. I mentioned I have that assessment, but I may leave. I may sell. Who gets it next? So the PID administrator, we don't want to put this on your finance department. The PID administrator keeps track of all of that. One item that could possibly come up if there's a homeowner that defaults. The city is responsible for filing a lien. That is our hammer that we have to use. In theory, that lien would be filed along with the city because they owe the city taxes. The school and the county and the drainage district. Because again, these typically go out in the tax bills. So if you're not going to pay one, you're not going to pay any of them, and they don't get 5 different checks from property owners saying, this is to the city, this is to the county. It just comes in as one. So if someone does default, then the city has to step in, or the county will, or whomever, but someone has to step in, and since this is our PID, we'd be the one responsible for doing that. This next, page 10, is really important. Financial implications for the city. The first one, and I should have started with this, we already talked about it, that no current residents pay for it. PID debt is non-recourse to the city, meaning it will not affect your ability. It doesn't go on top of your borrowing capability. Your ratings will not be affected, bond ratings. Standard & Poor's rates the city of Aransas Pass. By having PID bonds, even if they would default, it will not affect the city except bad press, but it won't affect your numbers. You as a city never have to step in to make a payment on a PID bond. If you have a city bond, general obligation bond, or a utility system bond, and the utility system doesn't generate enough income, the city's general fund is responsible for it. So this is something that is really important. No way they can get to your money. Issuance of PID debt by the city does not reduce the city's bonding capacity or affect the city's bond rating. City keeps, in this instance, this is going to be a new development within the city limits. all the ad valorem taxes come into the city. That stays with the city. So this development, in a PID development, not this one specifically, but any PID development is going to be adding $100 million, $200 million to your taxable value, which in turn, times your tax rate, brings in money annually and over that term. So that's why I said it's an economic development benefit to the city. PID creation and administration, we already touched on. City costs incurred as a result of creating should be paid by the developer, and the administration is typically contracted to the third party, and that's your PID administrator, P3. PID benefits and challenges. Benefits, so this is something, I believe this is all in the city limits right now, but there are times when there'll be a development outside of the city limits saying we want to do a PID. We would say don't do a PID unless it annexes into the city. And sometimes there's a fight because they don't want it, but then they don't get the PID. So and there may be some negotiation about it, but it's something that if it's created outside the city limits, it's going to be outside the city limits forever, and they're going to be coming in using the road. So if you can negotiate the annexation, you want to. Increase to accelerate the tax base.
Mark?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Go back on the financial implications for the city.
Yes.
Down at the bottom, it says counts against bank qualified debt limit. Can you explain that to me?
Yes. Sorry I skipped over that. A city, a school, a county, whoever it is, a borrowing entity can borrow up to $10 million in a calendar year, not your fiscal year, in a calendar year, and be what's called bank qualified. So if you issued a $8 million bond issue in 2026, and a PID wants to issue that, and they want to issue their bonds, and it's $8 million. So now we're 16. That's above the $10 million bank qualified threshold. So bonds would be then non-bank qualified, which takes about a 15 to 20 basis point higher interest rate for us to sell our $8 million. In that instance, we put in development agreements that if their debt causes our debt to be bank qualified, they have to write us a check at the beginning of the process. So that, again, we cannot let developers gain at the cost of our citizens. Right. So if the city's going to borrow $8 million and the developer's going to borrow more than $2 million, the $10 million is the limit, we would calculate the difference in interest rate, and they would have to write us a check for that difference.
What effect did that have on that $16 million bond then?
Well, their $8 million doesn't have an effect on bank qualified, because they're going to be non-bank qualified anyway. The city's portion would then be non-bank qualified because we add them together. It's bigger than the 10. Mm-hmm. That's why they have to write us a check up front for the cost of that extra interest over the time of our bonds.
Okay.
And so that it's standard language in the development agreement to have that in there. In a perfect world, we time it so their bond issues and our bond issues are in separate years. It's not always perfect, and we've had to go, and yes, we'll have an argument over the difference in interest rates, but we've always been able to come to terms with the developers and, here's the number. And might argue about 1 or 2 basis points, 3 basis points, but we've always been able to come to terms, and we've always gotten the check for the city.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to point out the potential challenges, and I hope the newspaper's here. Public perception. This, I've said it a bunch of times, I'll say it again, no impact to the current citizens. Often you get here in Facebook, man, the developer's getting a sweetheart deal. No, they're not. They're getting only something that they're paying extra for. The residents in that neighborhood are paying extra. It's not costing the city anything. And so public perception is trying to get out in front of that. Headline risk. If there's a failure, why did the city decide to do this? Boy, you know, what a mistake it was. And I'm going to touch on that very quickly. Marketability of the bonds. We've yet to have a failed bond sale, so I don't see that. Administrative burden, hopefully we put that on to P3, which is how it does work. Covenant to foreclose, I already mentioned that. Failure, project failure. One of the things you will hear us talk about a lot in this process as we start moving forward is VTL, value to lien. How do we make this less risky to the city to have a failed PID bond out there? So to make it easy description as possible, we don't allow them to borrow what the value of the land is. So value to lien, we're going to insist that we will not go below 2 to 1. The value's 2, the loan's 1. So if they had $20 million worth of value, they can borrow up to $10 million. If they fail, that $10 million lender is not going to let go of that $20 million project. There's $10 million of mistake that is covered for within that land. One time in Texas that I'm aware of, and it was in Galveston County, was a nearly failed PID bond. The bank didn't let it go to foreclosure because it was worth twice what it was, what their loan was. And they got a new developer to come in and take over, and it's been successful since then. So value to lien is really important. We want to make sure that the lien is low enough, not overburdened with leverage, that if there's a mistake, if there's a failure, then it's alleviated. And some of the things in the development agreement will matter. How we negotiate, what we get, what they get, who the home builder is, not just the developer who puts the roads, the drainage, the water and sewer there, but what home builders are there? Are they good contracts? Will it cost the home builder if they walk away? Because remember, the assessment goes with the land, so the original assessment's on the developer. They then sell it to a home builder. Now the assessment's with the home builder, and then the home builder sells it to the end customer, and the assessment goes to that end customer. We want to make sure through the process, if someone walks away, we've got the ability to get this project completed. So home builders matter, who we have. If it is a home builder that does 8 homes a year just locally, that would be tough. If it is a nationally known home builder, publicly traded in the New York Stock Exchange, makes it rather easy. So those things matter, and those are all details that we have yet to really nail down. We think we know some things, but there's so much negotiations that have to come. We need your direction, what you all want to see. And so those are the things that we still have to go through. The last page is just some examples of PIDs. I point out, these are just ones that I happen to work with. Sent in, we're about ready we've been about ready and working through to get to PID 2. If you're familiar with it, and I drove through it today just to see it, it's behind the Tractor Supply Company, kind of over by the Walmart. If you're in that area, I'd recommend you driving through that. They have a PID. Homes, the homes are seem full. I mean, there are houses being built. I saw foundations. They have houses for sale, and they have lots of people moved in. It's a big project. It goes on the other side where the county courthouse is going, which is, if you're out there, it's the great big framing of a building. And so that is one that's nearby. A high-end PID is on North Padre. It's that new, I forgot what it was called, Whitewater, I think. Has the new canals. Whitecap.
Whitecap.
That's another PID in your area. These others are Kyle, in between San Antonio and Austin. Marble Falls is up near the lake. So they're being done all throughout the state of Texas and have been very successful. There, as I point out, has not been a failed PID bond since they were created. First one was done 20 years ago. So that's everything I had as far as just kind of an overview of what a PID was. I think the mayor had seen this before. Randy, I think you saw this before. The two new council members obviously probably knew, so if there's questions and if there's things, Randy, you brought up, or Mayor, if you had that we weren't clear on, I'm happy to address them, anything you might
I think
have.
the big thing you cleared up is that, everybody can understand that anything outside the PID won't be affected. Like, it's not gonna affect anyone's valuation, property taxes outside of the PID.
Correct.
Because I've had people ask about that, and I think you pretty much cleared that up. So,
Do you know by any chance the percentage of property owners that default in a PID development?
Very, very rarely. I don't know that number. We had that question not too long ago in Smithville, Texas. And someone else said they don't happen. Just it happens as frequently as anybody defaults or fails to pay their property taxes. I don't want to say it's a non-absolute zero, but it's pretty close to zero.
How difficult, Mr. Isasi, would that be doing the lien on those properties when they default on the PID development, in a PID development?
It's just a matter of obtaining the proper form and getting it done and figuring out what they're in arrearage or what their default, and securing that lien up against that amount.
Okay. That was my only question.
Wouldn't the bank be the first one to throw a lien on the property? They're not paying their mortgage?
Well, I mean, if they didn't pay the mortgage, but right now, we're just worried about the taxes.
Because I'm thinking if you can't pay your taxes, you're not paying your mortgage.
More than likely.
You know, so
And that's,
I'm trying to look at the bigger picture to make sense of this.
you might go back to my example in Galveston County, the bank stepped in
Okay.
because they didn't want it to go to the courthouse steps, because then they're bidding against someone else,
Yeah.
so they just bought all the liens, or paid all the taxes and took it over.
So basically, these homeowners will have a PID fee, but
Mm-hmm.
also have an HOA fee. Because it's not one
well,
and the same, it's two completely
It
separate.
it is completely different. The HOA is something that's negotiated. We certainly would recommend having an HOA there to take care of things. I think there's going to be some discussion on that later on, and I certainly would recommend keeping saying, yes, we're interested in the PID, but we're not interested in the PID if you won't put an HOA out there. Because you don't want to be responsible,
Yep.
In theory, there might be a park out there. Well, we don't want citizens' taxes paying for it. Yes, they would have access for it, but who's going to use it the most? The people that live in and around that area. And so we want a homeowners association there to maintain things.
anybody else have any more questions? No? All right, thank you,
Okay,
Mark.
thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the budget calendar.
Mhm.
Okay. So this marks the beginning of the budget process for next fiscal year. So I'll just briefly go over some of the highlights on the calendar. The first item on the calendar is the preliminary values. Those are due from the chief appraiser. That was April 30th. Those have been received. The next item is what we're doing today. We're presenting the budget calendar to the council. So I'll jump to item number 4, which is the budget public hearing. We traditionally have done a budget hearing at the beginning of the process. It's not required, but we've always done one at the beginning. We've had one. It gives the citizens an opportunity to provide input early in the process, and this is scheduled for June the 2nd. The next item, number 5, which is June 13, the strategic budget planning session. This is usually done on a Friday. Normally, we've started that meeting at 8:30. The meeting is open to the public. It's a very important meeting because at this meeting, the council sets their budget goals and priorities. Department heads present their capital budget requests, and they explain the need for those budget requests and the financial impact of that item. After that, the council goes into a ranking system. I mean, they rank the items in order of priority. It's a crucial step in the process because it gives the council, it sets the council's goals, and it gives the city manager direction on the council's priorities. One item that you don't see on here is the appointment of a council member to serve on the Budget Review Committee. It's going to be a little different this year, and that was at the direction of the mayor. The city manager and the finance director will hold individual meetings with department heads and in developing their department budgets. These meetings will occur over a week. On the calendar, you'll see they're scheduled. It's on item number 7 from July 7th to July the 11th. Following these meetings, we'll be holding council workshop meetings. And at these meetings, department heads will present their budgets and provide an overview of their budgets. This will allow all members of the council to receive a department budget overview rather than just one council member. These budgets, I mean, these council workshop meetings, we haven't set them yet. They're not in the calendar. We anticipate them occurring sometime after we receive the certified values. That's going to be sometime in August. We're expected to receive the certified values July the 25th. So some of the other important meetings of the budget calendar are August the 18th. I'll jump all the way down to number 13, which is August the 18th. This is the date that the council sets the budget and the tax rate public hearing. And we are scheduled to hold that public hearing on the 15th. And adoption of the tax rate and the budget is also scheduled for the same date. At this time, we're just presenting the budget. There's no action required, but it's just a presentation of the budget calendar.
Okay. All right. We got any questions? No? All right, thank you, Mary. All right, now we're gonna go into announcements.
Oh, okay. I believe we pulled item number 6.
We did, Mayor. We had some new information come in, and so we're requesting at this time that this item be moved to the June 6th meeting. I mean, the June 2nd.
Okay,
Okay.
P&Z.
Mhm.
okay.
Okay, so now we're going to announcements. I only have one announcement. We're having on June 2nd, we're going to have some discussion items. 2 of those items. The first one is a unified development code, and the second item is we're going to propose some amendments to the personnel policy.
Okay.
So those are the 2 items for discussion on that date.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mary. All right, now we're going into citizens' comments.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Durham. I am a certified public accountant, and I'm also the vice chair of the Aransas Pass Housing Authority. I'm a private citizen, and I'm not an elected official. The Aransas Pass Housing Authority over the past month and a half has been used as an election pawn for those running for office. The proof of this is none of you on this council have ever attended our monthly meetings up until now. Our meetings are open to the public. We are governed by the Open Meetings Act and the Open Records Act. The Aransas Pass Housing Authority is not owned by the City of Aransas Pass. We are owned by a nonprofit organization. The only tie we have to the City of Aransas Pass is the mayor appoints our commissioners. Over the past month and a half, the following laws have been broken by individuals running for office: criminal trespass, breaking and entering, and pressuring and demanding housing authority employees to break the law by sharing confidential employee information and tenant information with them. At the same time, these individuals running for office have demanded we fire our executive director for breaking the law and sharing tenant information. Yet at the same time, these individuals running for office were encouraging other housing authority employees to break the same law. Individuals running for office and elected officials are not above the law. Confidential employee information has been shared on Facebook. Proof of criminal trespass and breaking and entering have been shared and posted on Facebook. No one ever needed to trespass or encourage employees to break the law to get the answers. All you had to do was make a phone call to one of the commissioners or attend our meetings, and you would have got those answers. I have personally been subjected to defamation of character by several of you on this council on Facebook. I demand you remove those posts from Facebook and anywhere else you felt the need to make those posts. The election is over. It has been pointed out that I'm an individual of financial means, and I do not have a problem using my financial resources to defend my character. During the past election, those running for election have thrown shit all over each other and made up lies about each other to gain election votes. You overlook the fact that you cannot lie about private citizens and throw shit at private citizens. That is called defamation of character. I am a private citizen, and I have rights. You all got so involved in trashing each other and defaming each other that you forgot that private citizens have rights. I'll be back next month to give you an update on the status of the Housing Authority. Have a good evening, and congratulations on your win.
Thank you, Stacy. Is anyone else?
I have to go for that one?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. All right. Good afternoon, guys. First, I'd like to say congratulations to the new council. I can't wait to see what y'all can do for the city, especially regarding transparency. With that said, I've attempted to get data over finances of the APD department and their audit that they've had about a year and a half ago. I got some of the data, the third party got some of the data doesn't match, which is strange, so I kept digging into it. This began over Chief Blanchard's $1,247 suit that the lady that sat there, I can't remember her name, Chugs or something, she had vodka, she sat right there. Anyway, that lady got on Facebook and publicly stated that Sandra back here found the requisition for a $1,247 suit and went to Gary Edwards immediately because they thought Jason Followell would get involved. And I did. So red flag number one, they made Chief Blanchard pay that back. Well, if it was part of the uniform policy, they couldn't make him pay it back, right? You can't do that. So that's a red flag. Makes him want to dig in even more. The second one is Sandra back here wouldn't even looked at it. If you follow the financial paperwork, it says that you would look at something $2,500 or more. So your story doesn't match up at all. So either you lied or Chugs lied. I can't remember. One of those two lied to us. All right. Anyway, I came here to educate on Texas Government Code 552, Public Information. This is Freedom of Information Act. This is for you citizens. The city adopted some new policy process, had a new dashboard, very complicated, especially if you're elderly, you're not going to understand it. So for your FYI, all you have to do is send them an email. As soon as you send them an email, that is received. That means they have 10 business days to give it back to you. If they don't do it by 10 business days, it means that it's open, they can't charge you for it, and they have to give it to you. Remember that. You don't have to do whatever they're telling you to do. It's just an email. Once they receive yours, go for it. They're supposed to give it to you promptly. They're not allowed to ask you why. They're not even allowed to ask you who you are. Don't let them step on your rights. Equal treatment with others of the requesters. Another issue, so I'm going to bring this up tomorrow. I'm going to request data from the body cam from the lady that was tased, the mother, because the old chief denied me and denied two other people, but released it to a citizen in Rockport, which is a 14th Amendment violation. I do not want to have to sue you again, so I will ask for it tomorrow, and I hope you promptly release that, because it's already been released once. Again, equal treatment under the law, 14th Amendment right. And I'm not picking on you, I haven't met you yet, but nice haircut.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So, government responsible, so they have to do this. They can charge you, and they can charge you for body cam, they can do that. However, if it is information that is going to make the public better and more informed, they are to release it to you for free instead of charging us, what, $800,000 for the annex data? You remember that one? They wanted $1 million for that. Why? So we couldn't figure out what they were doing wrong and being criminals, right? Yeah, you would think they'd release it to you so it would be transparency, and I know you guys will do that, so I appreciate it. So with that said, remember, email's all you got to do, and they have 10 business days to get it back to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
My name is Kelly Volmering. I would like to thank the members of this council and the new mayor for coming to the Aransas Pass Housing Authority meeting last month when I asked you to. I asked each and every one of you to because A, I didn't know how to help my mother-in-law, and B, I had residents reaching out to me asking for help to facilitate the removal of a woman who was doing awful things that were against the law. I do not have any knowledge of defamation. I have stayed off of Facebook. Sounds like I missed a really terrible party, and I'm glad to have done it. I will say this. This past Thursday, Ms. Durham, what I thought was very gutsy, when 3 members of the board did not show up to the board meeting, took questions and gave information, and I thought it was very gutsy, and I respect her for it. I would second her notion that people should not be defaming her character online. I certainly have no power in asking that, but I'm asking it. However, any indication that Christina Beard was anything other than fireable and probably should be looked at for breaking the law is anathema to me. I do not understand it. I hope that it doesn't continue. And I would hope members of the board, such as the chairman, would show up to the next board meeting and the next board meeting, which I will be at, and I would encourage all of you to be at, because I think this is important. I think poor people who vote in this in this country certainly, but in this county and in this city, and elderly people and disabled people, even if they don't vote, they need a voice. And I'm really sad that it had to be me, because I don't think that woman should have ever been around long enough to have been at my mother-in-law's doorstep that day. And I do not believe she came there to talk to me. She was done talking to me. She came to talk to my mother-in-law when she thought I wouldn't be there, because that's what bullies do. And I don't know who the board members should be of the Aransas Pass Housing Authority. I do believe that Ms. Durham did right by them in the end, by handling my final complaint. But I think great changes need to be happening there. I believe that she believes that. Hope I'm right about that. And when the other ones show up, I guess we'll ask them. But I want to thank the 4 of you, because I think you helped facilitate a change that absolutely was a long time coming.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to congratulate every one of you for your new seats and the new mayor. Looks good up there. No, oh, you know, looks good. Thank God it went that way. Yeah, the haircut. Not as good as yours, but anyway, I wasn't going to get up here and talk. I mean, thank God she wasn't talking about me defaming or whatever, being a political thing, because many people know what I've been putting on Facebook. But I got to clear my name. I didn't break into nobody's houses. People let me into their houses. I got involved in this a long time ago, right? I just didn't know what to do. So, yeah, I ran for a seat. I didn't win, fine. But it wasn't political because of political. If I could have did what I'm doing now back then, I would have did it back then. See, but I'm going to continue doing it, right? I didn't break into no. I got the right to do what I did out there. That's not nobody's yard there. So anyway, unless I'm proven wrong. But I did it because I'm doing it because the citizens don't have a voice there. What they've been doing there since they got into office has been no good, and a lot of us know that already, right? They're coming in here trying to turn this over and blame all this defamation, whatever she said about all the council members going over there. Y'all didn't speak up, the ones that have gone. Y'all haven't said nothing bad about nobody at those meetings. I've gotten up and spoken every time on stuff that I find out. I could have said more. I could have said less. I got more pictures, right? I got the number to FEMA to request all the financial statements and anything I want. It's open to the public, just like y'all's finances are open to the public, right? So are theirs. And well, with this now, me having the number, I'm gonna call them, right? Whether I get put in jail or not, it wasn't on purpose to break the law, but they're gonna have to prove I broke the law, because all these citizens let me into their homes to do what I did. And I did it because they asked me to. Ex-employees and ex-tenants. She said about 6 weeks ago this started. Well, 6 weeks ago it came down to where they had to get her out of there. If they finally would have come down on her 6 months ago, everybody would have showed up 6 months ago. But it's just so coincidence that she got the director there got fired around the time of the election. If it would have happened tomorrow, the election would have been over. She would have got fired tomorrow, but it just so happened that it happened. So it wasn't all political, not on my behalf. And I don't believe it was on y'all's behalf. Y'all got involved because people asked y'all. And I hope y'all continue. You know, me as a citizen, I'm gonna continue. Even harder now. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Averback,
No.
and I want to wish you all Mazel Tov. You probably won't hear that much around here. It means good luck. But yeah, I hope that you all do a great job. That's all I wanted to say right now. I'll wait till I have something to complain about.
There you go.
Actually, I do have one thing. Since Harvey, West Guile, where I live, there's a stretch between Commercial and 35 that has never been repaired. And I challenge each and every one of you to drive that stretch holding a hot cup of soda or coffee, cold cup of soda, hot cup of coffee, because it's dangerous. Okay, that's it. That's my complaint for today. So
All right.
thanks and good luck.
All right,
I'm
thank you,
looking
Bill.
forward.
Okay. Any more comments?
You can't fall over that one.
Oh.
Mayor, council members, Madam City Manager, very nice to see you all tonight. My name is Bart Brazelton. We're the developer of Aransas Oaks, and I just wanted to congratulate each of you on your win, and we look forward to working with you. Mr. McCliney has been great to work with. Your staff has been excellent to work with, and we look forward to getting to be a part of Aransas Pass. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, no other comments? All right, then, I guess we'll go into staff reports and discussion items.
Yeah, the staff reports are provided in written format. They're in your packet.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. And we'll, consideration approving the April 21st, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
I make a motion of approving the April 21st, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. We got a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. And consideration of approving the May 5th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
I make a motion of approving the May 5th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. We got a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, now we're going into action items. Consideration of approving a resolution amending the policies and general rules and procedures of the city council.
So here we're proposing two amendments. The first one, if you jump to Rules of Procedure number 5, let me go there. Okay, number 5. What is it, number 5? letter D, under agenda. The way the policy reads now is if a council member wants to place an item on the agenda, it first goes to workshop. We're not conducting workshop meetings anymore. So the amendment that we're proposing is, and this is under the direction of the mayor, is that items may be placed on the agenda by the mayor, city manager, or one council member, or one member of the city council who shall confirm their request with the city manager prior to the 72-hour posting deadline to be placed at the next available city council meeting for discussion and possible action. The second amendment goes down to, if you'll go down to council travel, which is item number 6. The way that reads now is that if council members travel, they will receive a reimbursement once they return from their trip. What we're proposing there is that the city will issue the council member a travel per diem check per the GSA rules for all reasonable expenses with supporting documentation while on city business up to the approved annual budgeted amount. So those are the two amendments that we're proposing for to the council policies.
I make a motion of approving a resolution amending the policies and general rules and procedures of the city council.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving right along, consideration of appointing a council member to serve on the committee to review requests for qualifications.
Yeah, this is, if the council, to appoint a member to serve, as you said, on the RFQ proposal committee. The purpose of this member is to participate in the review of proposals for city projects received in response to RFQs that we issue. And what they do, they assist in evaluating and scoring the submissions. Once we have done that, it will come back to council. We'll make a recommendation for the council to consider. But it's having a council member to serve on that RFQ proposal committee.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to consider appointing a council member to serve on the committee to review requests for qualifications.
What do you want?
What are you looking at? Let me move back.
Ruth?
Is this gonna be a daily deal or nightly deal or what?
Well, those meetings are held, we usually review the proposals during the day. We do have one proposal right now that we're waiting to review. And it's just whenever we receive RFQs throughout the year. It varies. It could be 2, 3, or, it just depends on how many RFQs we issue throughout the year.
I nominate Randy Haskins, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. All right, we got a motion on the floor. We got a second?
I'll second it.
Why?
Any further discussion?
What's discussion?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
Love you, Randy.
All right, consideration of approving a RFP for hot mix for the Wilson paving project. Ooh.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Congratulations. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about this memo, just for educational purposes. Our current city procurement policy says anything over $25,000 has to come to council. Anything under, we can purchase administratively. And of course, the local government code says we can go up to $50,000. But hot mix, which is asphalt for new roads, is extremely expensive. So not only is it expensive, it takes a lot just to pave. So this is going to basically exceed both thresholds. So basically, this one is just to give us permission to advertise for vendors to get pricing on hot mix that the city will be paving in-house. This project is for Wilson from the railroad tracks to Huff, basically going towards the harbor. We will do that in-house, but at this point, the only commitment that we're asking from you is to allow us to advertise. We would advertise for 14 days straight, and then once we get those bids in, we'll accept the sealed bids, we'll open them up, bring the results back to the council for final approval of purchasing.
Are you planning on going up to the top of the seawall?
No, we're too scared. We're just gonna stay in the bottom.
Yeah.
Of course, we're gonna go to the
All
top.
right, just had to ask how you get it up to, man.
I'm scared of heights. Now we'll go to the top.
All right.
I make a motion of approving a request for proposals for hot mix for the Wilson paving project.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. We have a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor?
One question.
Wait.
David, how long will it take you to do this?
Hey, good one.
Well, it'll probably just take us about 2 or 3 hours to pave it, but it'll take 2 weeks to advertise. The next council meeting will bring forward for approval, and after that, we'll schedule. So it's about 2 or 3 days of scheduling, about 2 or 3 hours of work.
Is that all?
Well, it's a small stretch, and we've gotten really good at paving.
I know you have. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, consideration of approving an ordinance amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, plating and subdivision, Section 24-7, Standards Manual by amending the introduction, planning sections, and fees, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severance, notice, and penalty, and declaring an effective date.
Good evening, council, and welcome. This one's a little bit more in depth, but I'm going to try and make it as easy as possible to understand. This area talks about pro rata. And pro rata, what that means, it means something in proportion and accordance to a certain rate. And right now in Aransas Pass, we are having a lot of developers coming in, and they're starting to develop small areas, but 3 houses here, 8 houses here, 1 house there. And our infrastructure isn't where it should be. And so they are having to come in and extend utilities to these new developments that they're putting in. And so that comes in very heavily on their pockets. And so what this does is they get a little bit of reimbursement back from the money that they're putting in to put in this infrastructure within 7 years of them implementing this infrastructure. And so in our codes, we actually had 2 different items that explained how this is going to be paid back. One of them was in our standards manual, and the other one was in our Muni code, both codes. But once we started getting more information of developers wanting to participate in this pro rata, we noticed that there was something not clear in how it's calculated. And so we had 3 or 4 different staff members give it a try to look at the pro rata fees. And when we did that, everyone came up with a different number. And so part of the information is on the standards manual. It showed a point system with additional steps. And so it would say to figure out how this gets paid back to the developer, it would say 10 points per linear foot of frontage, and then another 500 points per acre of land, and then the points per acre per linear foot of distance from origin of the extension to the end of the property's frontage. And so you would have the 1.1 times the number of acres and the length of the extension. And then it went on to add even more information. So the monetary value of each point would be obtained by dividing the total number of the points for all the properties concerned into the total cost of the line extension, less the amount of the participation by the city or any other government agency. And then each property shall then be assessed proportionally to its number of points. And then all the other 4 properties were adequate water and sewer lines. So sometimes some areas did have adequate sewer lines, but they just needed something extra for another side. Then they would follow these rules, where they would already be available on one side. A credit shall be applied as follows. So reduce the total number of points for the property by 50% in all the calculations of the points that were made. And then it goes into more detail of how these points get added on and subtracted if this is here or this is there and stuff like that. So when I mentioned before that 3 or 4 different staff members tried to get through this to see if we all came to the same number at the end, it never worked out. So for clarity, we went to the accounting, and they even gave an example here of the sample calculations, but it didn't specify what the A meant or where the B meant or where the C went. And unfortunately, whoever brought this to council many years ago is no longer with the city. So it's not like we could go and ask him and say, well, what did you mean by this? Because there's no explanation to this. And so what we decided to do is actually go to what was actually in Muni code, which breaks it down even easier. So now the calculations, if you agree to this, would be for the developer to show us his receipts, so we know exactly how much he spent on water or sewer or both. And then from there, we just look at how many houses are affected and how many houses need to pay that back, and we divide it by that. Nice and simple. So everybody can, there's no points to calculate. If they didn't need it, they don't pay for it. So it's simple. Everybody sees the receipts. Everybody knows how much it is. You divide it by the lots in the area or the houses in the area, and that's how much each person pays back, as long as it's still within the 7 years that's allotted to the developer. And some of the other things that we decided to change along since we were looking at the standards manual is to look at the reimbursement contract. There was some verbiage that just didn't match up for the city council. There was some words that said like Board of Commissioners. Well, there's no Board of Commissioners that would approve this. It would be you all, city council, so we're changing that. The introduction had some clarifications that we need to add the different times that there's been adopted amendments to the standards manual, so we're changing and making sure that the dates are put correctly. And then repealing statement for the calculation to make sure that if any others are found throughout the code, because the code is about 300 pages, it repeals all of them, and it'll just keep the simple one of just showing the receipts and how many people are on that area. And then the last one would be the Section 1 planning, where we just specify what the development process is now, how plans are now submitted electronically because we are now paperless within the city, so there's no paper to bring in, and other requirements as to like address the codes that will now be listed as found in Chapter 24, and information on new floodplain and ground development permits. And that's everything in the standards manual that we would be updating.
So really what this is doing is just simplifying the process, and I believe Mr. Isasi has reviewed this ordinance as well,
Correct.
as well as the reimbursement contract. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Brenda, I swear you go to bed every night thinking of a way to give us 200 pages to read and then throw it down at us in 5 minutes. I read all of this and I don't understand none of it.
Well, the first part, I agree with you.
Mary, is this an ordinance that's similar to like what other cities, like modeled after like what other cities are using?
I can't answer that.
But there are many cities that offer the pro rata, some certain types of reimbursements to developers when they invest in areas that we don't have any investment in.
See, and I think this came up when there was an investor interested in the pro rata, so we had never heard of it, so we started looking into it. And sure enough, when we started reading through the calculations, how do you calculate this thing, it's like, whoa. I mean, we spent hours trying to figure this out. And then I think Brenda looked at some ordinances and she said, well, you know what, I think it's in the board of policies that you have.
Mhm.
It's already addressed there that it simplifies it. Yeah. So let's just delete all these
So the
calculations and go
investor would
with.
have to ask for this pro rata?
Right.
Correct. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
For clarification, because a minute ago we were talking about the PID, now we're talking about pro rata.
Mhm.
What if there's a situation where the developer, because it's meant for streets, drainage, and sewer,
Mhm.
so they're part of a PID program, but now they have to pay back towards a pro rata too?
No, you
No,
can't
that's
combine the
different.
both.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
either do the PID or you do the pro rata, but you don't do both.
Okay, just
Mhm.
wanted clarification on that, thank you.
Yes.
Got a motion?
What was the wording?
D.
D.
Yeah, D.
I was looking at all her notes. That 200 pages of them. I make a motion, we can, consideration of appointing, I'm sorry, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong one.
11D.
Approving and the consideration of approving an ordinance amending the city code of ordinance 24 plating and subdivisions, et cetera.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor, we got a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
You want me to read all that, did you?
Yep. All right, consideration of approving a request from the Aransas Pass Independent School District Education Foundation for the temporary closure of Bigelow one-way for the first annual 5K Harbor Run on October 11th, 2025, beginning at 8 a.m.
Yes, this is a request, just as you read from the Aransas Pass ISD Education Foundation. This is their first annual Harbor Run. It's scheduled for October the 11th, and it starts at 8 a.m. They did request a temporary closure of Bigelow one way. I know Ms. Wellborn is here in the event that you have any questions about the event.
Oh, I'm good with it. No?
I'm excited about
Want
it.
me?
Yeah,
I'm ready to run
we'll make the motion then, run it.
it. I make a motion of approving a request from Aransas Pass Independent School District Education Foundation for the temporary closure of Bigelow one way for the first annual 5K Harbor Run on October 11th, 2025, beginning at 8 a.m.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, consideration of approving an agreement with TxDOT to participate in the Click It or Ticket Mobilization Initiative.
I believe that's Chief Perkins.
Oh, there we go.
Mayor, Council, the city police department has decided this year if y'all will allow to do the Click It and Ticket program. It's designed to, TxDOT does their research and they show in the cities where their major issues are with serious accidents or fatalities. And then they have the grant program that comes out, and the grant program allows the departments to place people or officers on the street with an 80-20 split. 80% is paid by the state, 20% is by the city. It allows us to have officers in this area, which I provided y'all with maps that we will be in that area. We will focus on seatbelt violations, which is what the state wants us to do, because if you're belted in, then the chances of surviving an accident are much greater. But that doesn't mean that we won't be out looking for other violations as well. And it's all for a safe initiative. I don't know, I've had several complaints about the West Wheeler area, commercial area. That all falls into this program that we're doing. So I'm asking for y'all's permission to go into agreement with TxDOT to be able to do this.
Okay.
Do you know the time period that it's going to
Yes,
run?
ma'am. There are two of them really. So
Okay.
you've got a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and a 6 p.m. to 6 in the morning. You have to do 50% of the time, 6 p.m. to 6 in the morning.
Okay.
So we've already done this. So May 16th through the May 18th, we've done education. Before it starts, we posted something on Facebook, stating that this is what we're doing.
Okay.
May 19th, which is today, which we're not doing because I don't have approval yet. So May 19th through June 1st is the actual enforcement period, where we'll be out on the street. And then the June 2nd, 25 to June 4th is going to be the post, where we also post up on Facebook what we've accomplished during that time period. Chief, is this going to be just overtime, officers doing strictly this unless called away? Yes, sir. This is designed that unless the officer, well, let me go a little further with it. The good thing about this program is we don't have to use regular officers to do it. So on-duty officers are still going to be doing their on-duty stuff. It doesn't mean they're not going to be running traffic or anything, but if they get a call, they go do their call for service. This is a dedicated program that unless it is a serious emergency, those officers will not be dispatched any calls. They are strictly in this area for the traffic enforcement. The only time, again, once they get called out to a serious in progress or emergency, as soon as it's stable and officers on duty have showed up, they break off and they go back out to doing this.
But it is additional officers out there doing just this?
Yes,
in
sir.
overtime status?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm good.
Will we have any follow-up activity after the clicker ticket timeframe?
What do you mean by that, ma'am?
Because this clicker ticket is just a small timeframe,
Yes,
my
ma'am.
understanding.
Yes, ma'am.
What about long-term? I appreciate the effort in the Pick Their Ticket 100%. However, I do feel we need something more long-term, a bigger police presence in specific areas.
Yes, ma'am.
Commercial, McCampbell, Guile, DeBerry and Rifle. I have a friend of mine who lives in the corner, and she's afraid to even live there. She's glad her mom doesn't live there with her anymore because people run the stop sign constantly. I think, again, this is a wonderful program, and I will 100% vote for it, not a problem. But I would like to see something more long-term.
Yes, ma'am.
To make our city safer for everybody involved.
Yes, ma'am.
And it may be something as simple as, not a pothole, but the speed bumps. Put them, they're off of DeBerry and South Rifle. McCampbell, they go flying through McCampbell. Steve and I used to live there. It's very dangerous.
Especially South Drive.
Right, they're on commercial, and I'm always outside under my 2 oak trees. Not mine, but you know what I mean. And people just go flying there, and it's like, where is everybody? So as much as I appreciate this program, I will ask you to please see what can be done on a more full-time, regular basis of having better police presence.
Yes, ma'am. I will address that with the staff. I have addressed it already with the staff. The vehicle I'm in right now, I do not have lights on the vehicle, and people will fly by me on Wheeler. So I know that for a fact. I've addressed with the officers that we need to have more police presence on Wheeler as well as elsewhere. We've also, myself and Assistant Chief Jones has tinkered with the idea of having a specialized unit that's out there, and that's all they do. Because now that we're fully staffed, we still have someone in training, but once they get off training, there may be a situation where we can have one officer on that shift for your next 4 days that you're on. You're gonna be doing traffic enforcement, everybody else will run calls. And we'll just rotate that, trying to do what you're asking us to do, ma'am.
Right, at the same time, I will caution us not to become Portland. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it right there. Let's not become Portland. That's not the whole objective.
And I know the compromise, that was in my prior position as Chief in George West, before I got there, they were known as a speed trap. And I don't believe in a speed trap. I don't believe in that. Now, if you're going, fast, you deserve the citation or at least a stop, because part of a citation, part of being stopped is education.
Sure.
And, if you're from this city, you know what the speed limits are. If you're not, then, part of that might be education, to gain compliance. But when you're stopping the same person over and over and over again, and obviously the warnings aren't working, that citations should be issued.
Agree.
All right.
I make a motion of approving an agreement with TxDOT to participate in the Click It or Ticket mobilization initiative.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, now we're gonna go into executive session. We have 2 items. Item 1, Aransas Oak subdivision, and item 2, JW Eclipse Investments LP, and it is 7:23.
I didn't bring any today.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to reconvene in open session, and it's 9:20. And there's no action to be taken, so meeting adjourned.
Make a motion, this meeting adjourned.
Too late, we don't do that no more.
We don't do that no more?
No.